Hello everyone, back to today's second video. So we started with the week to 10 day look ahead first of all today. You can find it here on the homepage. Just scroll down a little bit, it's underneath link ads. It's going to be quite an interesting 10 days coming up. You're going to have a lot of high pressure to our north. That's going to bring in proper, proper easterly winds. So I'll let you have a look at that and see what you think. This video is the JMA 3 monthly update. So we're going to go through May, June and July with this update with the long-range Japanese model. This is in anticipation, of course, of the summer seasonal roundup that we're going to be doing on Sunday, when we get something like 10 or 11 long-range models together, and we'll see what they're all showing for the summer. So it's going to be in anticipation of that, and the JMA will go into that seasonal model roundup. But the thing with that is, because we've got so many models to look at, we can't really go in depth into what the JMA is showing. And the thing with the JMA is that you get a lot of information from it. We never have time to touch on all of the information you can get when we've got something like 10 other models to get through. So I always like to isolate this one out and sort of do a video about it in its own terms so that we can see exactly what it's showing for the next 3 months. It's one of the more reliable models as well, I think, the JMA. It's at the more reliable end of the seasonal model. So that's what we're going to do for this video. We're going to start off with the Northern Hemisphere view down, from the pole down into the Northern Hemisphere. Then we'll have a look at the tropical and mid-latitude view. So we're going to start off with May, first of all. Remember, you can find the link to the long-range JMA model on the links page, should just say that. We're going to start off with May from the pole down. We've got the pole up here, of course. That's the North Pole there. British Isles is just there underneath the polar region. With these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure and yellow, oranges, brighter colours, extrapolate to high pressure. So for May, we find we've got an area of above average heights to our north, centred across the Arctic and down in towards Greenland. Got below average heights in the central part of the Atlantic. It looks like this area of above average heights is trying to extend and reach down into the British Isles. So it looks like we should be under a ridge. However, I'm not sure it's that straightforward, really, because this trough of low pressure is in the Atlantic. I've got a feeling we're probably running low pressure underneath this blocking that we've got going on up here. I think the mean wind flow is probably going to be easterly with this, but it could well be quite a bit more unsettled than that is suggesting. We will have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies in a moment, and I've got a feeling they'll be more unsettled than you would guess by just looking at that chart. Now, June is quite interesting as well, because it's quite a change from May to June in terms of the pattern. We've got all that blocking to the north. Now we've got low pressure over the polar region, and we've got above average heights to our west-southwest, which again looks like it should be bringing us a reasonable amount of dry weather. But again, I think we are being played by the jet stream here. We're probably doing something a little bit like that. Although this area just here isn't blue, it looks like that's a trough within the 500 millibar flow. So I think we've got a ridge down to our west-southwest. We've got a trough to our east, and we're probably doing something a bit like that with the jet stream, bringing the jet stream through the country and then dipping it south across Europe underneath that trough. So what looks like it could be a reasonably dry and fine June may actually be a little bit more unsettled than, again, you would think by looking at that chart. We're probably being played by the jet stream and by west-northwesterly winds. So probably not overly warm, and maybe a little bit on the changeable side. And then we're moving through, we're moving through into July again, and this one looking quite strange as well. We've got above average heights extending through the Atlantic seemingly and going into Europe and then backing up towards western Russia as well. In fact, they seem to circumvent the whole of the mid-latitudes of the northern hemisphere, which does look very strange. I'm not sure quite what Molly's doing, but they're very weak heights, and I think we may well be bringing the jet stream through the UK and the Atlantic, a bit like that. Let's have a look at the tropical and mid-latitude view so we can get a better idea of what the temperature precipitation anomalies are doing with these heights. So we're coming back to May. What you need to know is basically about the equator on these charts is just there, so that's where the tropics are. The southern hemisphere to the south of the equator, of course, the northern hemisphere to the north of the equator. The poles, you can't see them, but the North Pole is off the chart up there, and the South Pole is off the chart down there. So the British Isles, of course, is up in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. So now you know where everybody is. Let's see what's happening. And we know we've got lots of high pressure up here off the chart over the Arctic for May. It looked like it's trying to extend a ridge down into the British Isles. But I thought it might be a little bit more unsettled than the height suggests. And look at this. The model is actually predicting a wetter than average month in May. So it's going for quite a wet one next month. In terms of precipitation, in terms of temperature, I should say, that's coming out around average to perhaps a little bit on the milder than average side. The mean wind direction for May, always hard to make these out, these black arrows, but I can tell you, but it is easterly. British Isles just there, and the black arrows are blowing in from the east. So it is suggesting quite an easterly May is likely. So it looks like it could be a fairly poor month actually. I think this area, the below average heights in the Atlantic, is throwing up rain bands, is undercutting with low pressure the block that's going on up here. The winds are coming in from the east, and particularly from the south of the country. That could be quite a wettish, fairly cool signal during May. Then we go through into June. Again, it looked on the face of it as though it should be a decent month, but we've got this area of above average heights to our west-southwest, and then I think we've got below average heights to the east, and we might well be bringing the jet stream through the country a bit like that. So if we have a look at precipitation, it isn't as wet as it is in May. So England and Wales coming out a little bit drier than average, Scotland and North Line coming out a bit wetter than average, but it does suggest still quite a changeable type pattern in June. Precipitation is a bit on the drier side for the south and a bit on the wet side for the north then, but temperatures are about average once again, maybe slightly on the milder than average side. So nothing overly exciting going on with the temperatures, but I think these next couple of months are potentially a little bit more changeable than we've had for quite a while. The mean wind direction looks like it's coming from a west-northwesterly type direction with those black arrows. So quite a change in the circulation and the pattern from May through to June, fairly interestingly. And then we've got very bizarre looking charts for July with all of this yellow going on through the Atlantic into Europe as well. Very difficult to decipher much from that. So let's have a look at what the temperatures are doing for June. I should say for July, and the temperatures are coming out about average, a little bit above average again, so all 3 months coming out seemingly with average to slightly warmer than average temperatures. Precipitation though, that looks unsettled again in July, so rainfall is above average. What about the mean wind direction? And that looks like it's coming from, so it looks like it's coming from the west for the north and possibly from the east to the south of us. So that would imply that we may have an area of low pressure over the country, because of course around low pressure the circulation is going in that kind of direction. So reading between the lines, it looks like we could be in for a fairly mixed 3 months ahead actually. If you were just to take the 500 millibar height anomalies from the pole down and take them at face value, it looked like it should be a reasonable 3 months, but I was very dubious about them, and I'm glad we've gone in depth actually into temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next 3 months for this update, because they are much more unsettled. The scene is much more unsettled compared to what you would get just by looking at the height. So, well, May and July are both wetter than average. June is nearer normal, but still quite unsettled for the north. Temperatures overall are holding up, but of course you have to be a bit dubious about that, because they tend to overcook the temperatures at best of times, these long-range models. Overall, I would suggest quite a cool and changeable 3 months ahead, which may be a bit of a surprise given how dry and quite warm we've had the weather up to the past week or so. Anyway, had a really warm start to 2017. A lot of dry weather as well. It looks like if the JMA is right, and it's quite a departure from what we've had, so you've got to be a bit careful about this. But if the JMA is right, possibly the next 3 months looking a little bit cooler and quite changeable than we've had for a little while. Right, tomorrow it's JMA Friday when we'll have a look with the Japanese CFS V2 models in detail at the month ahead. So come back for that tomorrow. Don't forget to check out the week to 10 day video, which is underneath the link ads. And all that remains is to say thanks for watching.